Hi my dear children, today we are going to study about Mahatma Gandhi and the national movement. Sixth chapter, Mahatma Gandhi and the national movement. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, popularly known as Bapu or Mahatma Gandhi, completely dominated the Indian national movement from 1990 to 1948. So that's why the period between 1990 to 1948 is called the period of Gandhian era. So why 1919 to 1948 period is called Gandhian era? So 1919 to 1948, that period, Indian National Congress was Indian national movement was completely dominated by Mahatma Gandhi. So because of that reason, that period is known as the Gandhian era in Indian history. Okay, Gandhian era in Indian history. We already studied early nationalist, assertive nationalist and third phase. This is the third phase or mass phase. So this phase only called Gandhian era because completely dominated, the Indian National Congress was completely dominated by Mahatma Gandhi, the period between 1990 to 1948. So that's why this period is called Gandhian era in Indian history. And also he was called the father of nation. Why? Because the work he did, the sacrifice he did for the nation and the contribution he given to our country's freedom struggle, we cannot explain at all. That's why the grateful nation remember him as the father of nations. Okay, he was called the father of nation because whatever the contribution what he given to the nation, we cannot describe in words or sentence or in our speech or whatever it may be. It is very difficult to describe at all. So because of that reason, it is called, he was known as the father of nation. Okay, now his early life. Mahatma Gandhi, he was born in 1869 at Porbandar in Kathiawar district of Gujarat. So there he studied law earlier. He went to England to study law, and after completing his studies, he came back to India and there he started practicing law at Rajkot. From 1893 to 1914, he practiced law in South Africa. So when he was in South Africa, he met a lot of racial discrimination in South Africa. On the way itself, on a journey by train from Durban to Pretoria, he was forcibly thrown out of the first class compartment even though he had a valid ticket. When he reached in South Africa, Indians could not. He realized the situation of South Africa and he soon became the leader of struggle for justice in South Africa. He understood the condition of South Africa and he took the leadership for the struggle for justice in South Africa. During 1893 to 1940, he was engaged in an heroic struggle against the racial discrimination that existed in South Africa. Racial discrimination, we already know, separating the people in the name of color. So he took the leadership and he fought against this racial discrimination that followed in South Africa. There itself he formed a Congress also, Natal Indian Congress, and so many times he was arrested also, and he started a non-violent civil disobedient movement. There itself he started a non-violent civil disobedient movement. Non-violent civil disobedient movement in South Africa against the discriminating treatment meted out to the Indians. So South African government had to listen to the voice of reason and in 1940 repealed most of the unjust acts against the Indians. But later, due to the struggle done by Mahatma Gandhi, South African government, they repealed most of the unjust acts against the Indians. Thus, during this struggle, that Mahatma Gandhi evolved the technique of satyagraha based on truth and non-violence. That is one of his famous weapon or the method he used. Satyagraha is one of the method he used to get freedom from the Britishers, from the clutches of Britishers. So word Satyagraha means what? Satyagraha is made up of two Sanskrit words, Satya and Agraha. So Gandhi followed that method only to attain freedom from the clutches of Britishers. That is, according to Gandhiji, Satyagraha was a moral force born of truth and non-violence. It means to fearless, truthful as well as peaceful, suffering willingly while refusing to submit what is wrong. Gandhi's Satyagraha movement was directed against the British system of exploitation, not the British people individually or collectively. It is against the British system of exploitation. He started the Satyagraha against the British system of exploitation, not against the British people individually or collectively at all. So Gandhi made a distinction between Satyagraha and passive resistance. Passive resistance does not exclude the use of physical force for the purpose of gaining one's end, whereas Satyagraha excludes the use of violence. Okay, what is the difference between passive resistance and Satyagraha? Satyagraha means what? Passive resistance does not include the use of physical force for the purpose of gaining one's end. At the same time, whereas Satyagraha exclude the use of violence. Okay, so doctrine of non-violence also he followed. Non-violence means ahimsa, not killing, not doing any injury. But for Gandhiji, it means avoiding injury to anything by thought or word or action. He completely avoided doing any injury at all. Okay, according to Gandhiji, non-violence is not a negative but a positive active force. It is the virtue of the strong which require benevolence and sympathy. Gandhi set an example before the whole world of achieving freedom from the mighty British power through the non-violent struggle. So, when he was in South Africa, there itself the idea of Satyagraha developed. That is based on truth and non-violence. Okay, Gandhi returned to India in January 1950 and spent the next 4 years in studying the Indian situation. During the course of this 1917 to 1918, he was involved in 3 significant struggles. So, when he was studying about our country, during that period itself, he engaged in 3 important struggles. One is in Champaran in Bihar, and another one in Ahmedabad, and another one in Kheda in Gujarat. Ahmedabad and Kheda in Gujarat. These 3 struggles he involved at. That is his first attempt. Okay, Champaran Satyagraha, that was his first attempt. Gandhi's first great experiment in Satyagraha was accomplished in 1917 in Champaran, Bihar. So, what is this Champaran Satyagraha? The indigo cultivators of this Champaran were greatly exploited by European planters. The European planters, they asked the cultivators to cultivate indigo. Indigo is one of the intoxicating one of the plant. So they were bound to buy law to grow indigo on 3 by 20 of their land and sell it to the British planters at the price fixed by them. So there is a condition between the English people and the cultivators. According to that condition, they should pay this much amount. 3 by 20 they should pay in the as a part of tax, Thingadiya system of their land, and sell it to the British planters to the price fixed by them. And apart from that, Britishers will be fixing the rate of that plant also. Okay, indigo's rate also Britishers only will be fixing at all. So the tax also they should pay certain percentage of tax, 3% out of 20 they should pay as a tax at all. So the selling rate also Britishers only will be fixing at all. So they invited Gandhiji to take their course, but the district authorities banned the entry to the district. So the cultivators, they called Gandhiji to interfere in that matter. So Gandhiji decided to enter, but the district authorities, they did not allow him to enter at all. He offered Satyagraha, as a result of which an inquiry was conducted into the condition of the peasants. This helped in giving the indigo cultivators some relief. But even the district authorities did not allow him to enter also. The British authorities, they have taken certain measures to inquire about this. Gandhiji started Satyagraha, and as a part of this, when he started Satyagraha, British authorities, they made an inquiry regarding this, and accordingly the indigo cultivators got some relief. That is his first attempt. What is it? Champaran Satyagraha. Secondly, Ahmedabad Satyagraha in 1918. Gandhi led to mill workers of Ahmedabad in a strike against the mill owners who had refused to pay them higher wages. Mill owners, they paid very less salary, less wage to the workers. In that circumstances, Gandhi asked them to start a strike to get more wage at all. So when the workers seems to weaken, he provided support them by undertaking for hunger strike. He has taken hunger strike and afraid the consequence of that, the mill owners agreed to pay fourth day of Gandhi's fast to give 35% increase in the wages. After seeing Gandhi's hunger strike, the mill owners, they promised to pay at least 35% increase income at all. So that is the Ahmedabad Satyagraha 1980. Next, Kheda Satyagraha, that is also in Ahmedabad. Crops failed in Kheda. Kheda cultivators, they did not get that much proper crops, did not get that much profit from their cultivation at all. In that circumstances, the farmers find difficult to pay the land revenue at all. And the government refused to forgo the, but British government, they are not ready to refuse this land revenue at all. Gandhi organized, in that circumstances, Gandhi organized the peasants to offer Satyagraha. So the peasants, they refused to pay the revenue, and at last government was forced to arrive at settlement with the peasants. So Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel became Gandhi's follower during this struggle, and the government and the people at last ultimately they made a settlement. This also after the intervention of Gandhi at all. Okay, that is Kheda Satyagraha. So when crops failed in Kheda, peasants find very difficult to pay the taxes, land revenue at all. In that circumstances, British government was not ready to refuse the forgo their land revenue. So Gandhi organized the peasants to offer Satyagraha. Peasants also refused to pay revenue, and at last government forced to arrive at a settlement with the peasants. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel also participated in that Satyagraha, and he was one of the follower of Gandhi during this struggle. So these first three experiments in Satyagraha that brought Gandhiji into close contact with the masses, both in peasants and rural area and the workers in urban area. Okay, Champaran Satyagraha, Ahmedabad Satyagraha, and the Kheda Satyagraha. These three experiments in Satyagraha brought Gandhi into close contact with the masses, means people, both the peasants in rural area and the workers in urban area. He got a close contact. So his first weapon, Satyagraha. Secondly, non-violence. Thirdly, Swadeshi. And fourth one, mass movement. Satyagraha means what? Truth or non-violence. Satyagraha means Satya and Agra. That means insistent to hold fast. Non-violent resistance based on truth and non-violence. Non-violent resistance based on truth and non-violence. Okay. Next, Swadeshi means, already we studied. Swadeshi means producing necessary items in one's own country and using them for one's own use without being depending on imported goods. Okay, that's called Swadeshi goods. Swadeshi means producing necessary items in one's own country and using them for one's own use without being depending on imported goods at all. So Gandhi believed in the use of Swadeshi goods, and accordingly they decided to boycott all the imported goods. Then mass movement, according to Gandhi, in South African experiment gave Gandhiji the experience of leading Indians belong to different regions and social classes. South Africa built his faith in the ability of the Indian masses. When he suffered in South Africa due to racial discrimination, there he experienced the power of the strength of masses. So from that he got his faith in the ability of Indian masses to participate in freedom movement. So he encouraged the mass movement also. Okay. Now the first activity he has taken, that is non-cooperation movement. In Indian national movement, first work he has undertaken, that is non-cooperation movement. So non-cooperation movement means what? A way of protesting in which one does not cooperate with the evildoer, not ready to cooperate with the evildoer at all. So during the First World War, Congress cooperated with the British. Even Gandhiji also urged Gujarat persons to join the army if they wanted to win Swaraj. But the events incidents of 1919, that means Khilafat movement, Rowlatt Act, Jallianwala Bagh incident, this and all forced Gandhiji not to cooperate with the British people. Okay, the incidents. What are the various incidents that led Gandhiji to start non-cooperation movement? So three incidents are the first one, Khilafat movement. Second thing, Rowlatt Act. Third one, Jallianwala Bagh tragedy or massacre. Jallianwala Bagh massacre or tragedy. These are the three incidents that led to Gandhiji to start non-cooperation movement. Non-cooperation movement means not at all cooperating with the British people at all. Earlier, that means during First World War, Congress cooperated with the British people, and even Gandhiji itself forced the Gujarat people to join the army at all. But later, due to these three reasons, Rowlatt Act, Khilafat movement and Jallianwala Bagh massacre, Gandhiji felt not to cooperate with the Britishers at all. So, a way of protesting in which one does not cooperate with the evildoer. Okay, so that only called non-cooperation movement. Now see, what are the reasons? First one, Khilafat movement. What is this Khilafat movement? When the First World, what is this Khilafat movement? When the First World War took place, the Turkey was defeated and Ottoman Empire was divided. Turkish Empire, only this Ottoman Empire, and that was divided after the First World War. Turkish people was defeated in the hands of their enemy, and the Ottoman Empire was divided at all. So the Sultan of Turkey, who was the Caliph, was deprived all the authority. Caliph means the head of all Muslims. Head of the all Muslims were called Caliph. So when the Ottoman Empire was divided, Sultan of Turkey decreased his authority. All his authority completely collapsed, shattered. So Caliph was looked upon by a large section of Muslims as the religious head. This Caliph, he was considered as the head of the Muslims. So when Turkish Empire fell in the hands, that means Ottoman Empire fell in the hands of its enemies, this Caliph authority also totally shattered. In that circumstances, they felt that any weakening this Caliph position would totally destroy the power of Muslims in all over the world at all. So, the Muslim population in India, they started an agitation against this, and that agitation only called Khilafat movement. Okay, what is this Khilafat movement? When Ottoman Empire was divided after the First World War, Turkey defeated in the hands of the enemies, and that led to the fall of Ottoman Empire, and it was divided, and this led to what? This led to the destruction of Caliph position. Caliph means the head of the Muslims. Caliph was considered as the head of the Muslims. That means religious head of the Muslims. So Caliph position completely shattered. In the circumstances, Muslim population in India started an agitation against this. That agitation only called Khilafat movement under the leadership of Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. So two prominent people, Ali brothers, they only started this Khilafat movement. Who are the two people? Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. Not only Ali brothers, apart from that, Maulana Azad, Hakim Ajmal Khan and Asad Mohini, like that other people also participated. Okay, this Khilafat people, they formed 3-point program. Their main demands, three demands are there. First thing, Ottoman Caliph should retain his empire. Ottoman Empire should restore it, retain his empire. Secondly, Caliph must be left with sufficient territory to enable him to defend the Islamic faith. Caliph should get sufficient territory and to enable him to defend the Islamic faith. He should protect the Islamic faith. Thirdly, Arab lands. Arab lands means Arabia, Syria, Iraq, Palestine and all remain under the Muslim rule at all. So these are the three demands put forward by the Khilafat people. Okay, mainly 3-point program they introduced. 3 points means 3 demands are there. First thing, Ottoman Caliph should retain his empire. Secondly, Caliph must be left with sufficient territory to enable them to defend the Islamic faith. Thirdly, Arab lands such as Arabia, Syria, Iraq, Palestine and all should remain under the Muslim rule. So accordingly, October 17, 1919 was considered as a Khilafat Day. They observed as a Khilafat Day in all over the country. Okay, October 17, 1919 was considered as a observed as a Khilafat Day in all over the country. So Gandhiji also uh, participated very effectively. He saw the Khilafat movement is an opportunity for uniting Hindus and Muslims. He said that Congress pray for Hindu-Muslim unity and would be an empty phrase if Hindus hold aloof from the Muslims when their vital interests are at stake. So Mahatma Gandhi was the first elected president of All India Khilafat Congress in November 1919. He advised the Khilafat Committee to adopt a policy of non-cooperation with the government. Gandhiji also actively participated in this Khilafat movement because according to him, it was an opportunity for uniting Hindus and Muslims. He was elected as the president of All India Khilafat Conference in November 1919 and he advised the Khilafat Committee to adopt a policy of non-cooperation with the government. Okay, so by August 31st, 1920, Khilafat non-cooperation movement they started. People resigned. Many those who are working under the control of British government or British services, shops, selling the foreign goods, students those who are studying British schools and colleges and all completely boycotted hartals and demonstrations that held in all over the country. By the end of 1920, Khilafat movement and the Congress non-cooperation movement that merged into one national-wide movement turned to be one of the national-wide movement at all. So in 1920, Khilafat Committee appealed to all the Muslims not to join the police and armed forces and not only to pay the taxes. So this Khilafat Committee appealed to all Muslims not to join the police and armed forces also. Apart from all their demands, they asked the people not to join the police and not to join in armed forces and not to pay the taxes also. This infuriated the British government and they arrested the Ali brothers. Khilafat Committee, they asked the Muslim people not to join the police force or armed force and not to pay the taxes. On that circumstances, they arrested. Britishers got angry and they arrested the Ali brothers. So that is the first incident. Second thing, Rowlatt Act. What is this Rowlatt Act? See, Rowlatt Act is according to the after receiving a report from the Sedition Committee headed by Justice Rowlatt Act. This was mainly taken place under the leadership of Justice Rowlatt. They introduced two bills in Central Legislature. In February 1990, British government introduced two bills in Central Legislature. And the purpose of bills were to curb the growing upsurge in the country. The main intention of this bill was to put an end to the growing upsurge in the country, put an end to the growth of Indian nationalism. So, in spite of opposition from Indians, they passed a new act called Rowlatt Act. March 1990, Britishers to curb the national movement conducted by Indians, they passed a new act called Rowlatt Act. So this act authorized the government to imprison any person without trial and convict him in a court. So according to this Rowlatt Act, British government have right to arrest any person without trial and convict him in a court. Okay, arrest any person without trial or arrest warrant. Okay, without arrest warrant, Britishers got the right to arrest any person through what? Through Rowlatt Act. That only Rowlatt Act passed by British government in the year 1990. So it implemented mainly first thing, arrest a person without warrant. Secondly, no trial, only camera trial. Thirdly, restrictions on movement of individuals. So it completely curbed the restrictions on movement of individuals. Individual movement restricted. Fourth one, suspension of right of habeas corpus writ. We know already civics we studied habeas corpus writ to provide protect our fundamental rights. So that also did not allow. Individual did not get the proper right to enjoy their fundamental right also through this Rowlatt Act. So it was one of the sudden blow to Indians because Indians are waiting to get self-governance. In that circumstances only they are getting this sudden blow like Rowlatt Act, like blow getting et al. So Gandhiji appealed to Viceroy to withhold his consent to such measure. Gandhi asked them to withhold that one. However, his appeal was ignored. But the British government, they are not ready to listen Gandhiji's words at all. So in that circumstances, Gandhiji started Satyagraha. As a challenge to the government, he started Satyagraha. Okay. Then third incident, known Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. What is it? Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. This Jallianwala, that is a garden. Garden means what? Four sides, three sides completely big enclosed by building. The and only one small exit, entrance, exit, only one small passage like entrance or exit at all. Okay, no other way at all. So a large peaceful crowd, a large meeting was going on. Peaceful crowd gathered at the Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar on April 13, 1990 to protest against the arrest of leaders Safieddin Gichlu and Dr. Satyavan. Britishers arrested two people, two prominent leaders, Safieddin Gichlu and Dr. Satyavan. So to protest against this arrest of these leaders, all the people of Punjab, they gathered in that garden, Jallianwala Bagh. The Jallianwala garden, they all gathered and peaceful meeting was going on. Suddenly, uh, that area already I told it was completely covered area, three sides completely covered with a big wall and leave only one small exit. So General Dyer, the military commander of Amritsar, surrendered the garden with his soldiers. Suddenly, without any information, General Dyer, the military commander of Amritsar, he surrendered that garden with his soldiers. After closing that exit, only one exit, at that exit he closed at all, and after closing that exit with his troops, he ordered them to shoot at the crowd. So troops kept on firing till their ammunition was exhausted. Till finishing their ammunition, they shooted continuously at all. Nearly thousands of innocent demonstrators killed were and many were wounded. And this incident only called what a Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Okay. Massacre means at a time killing many people, that only called what a massacre. So after this incident, British government made certain attempt to constitutional reform, but that did not get that much intention at all. And also they are not ready to annul the Rowlatt Act also. Instead of that, they have taken uh, certain violative method against to certain violation against Indian setup. Okay, so these are the three incidents that forced Gandhiji to start non-cooperation movement. Okay, three incidents. What are the three incidents? Khilafat movement, that is related to Ottoman Empire when it fell in the hands of the enemies. The Muslim had lost its power, and that led to the Muslim people to start the Khilafat movement. Second one, Rowlatt Act. It was a new act passed by British government to arrest any person without trial. Thirdly, Jallianwala Bagh massacre. These three incidents forced Gandhiji to start non-cooperation movement. Okay, thank you.